Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the CoachCon Podcast. We're up to episode 19, and we have a fantastic guest with us today. We have Dan McNab joining me today. So Dan is a bodybuilder. He's a coach. He's got some incredible things to go into with us. We're going to get into all sorts from dieting, training, mindset, and of course, with a being a high-level competitive bodybuilder, we're going to get some real insight. So Dan, firstly, my friend, thank you ever so much for coming on. Welcome to the podcast. I really appreciate having you on.
Yeah, mate, glad to be on, and sorry for forgetting all about it last week. that was my bad.
You're all right, man. You are worth the wait. So let's kind of dive into everything. So for the folks that don't know you just yet, of course, I give a very brief introduction, but can you tell us just a little bit about yourself, kind of your background, and just then, a little bit about your journey and how you got into bodybuilding?
Okay. I'll do a whirlwind tour. So I started training quite late, just in my bedroom, like most people, but later because I was basically a bit of a dickhead, and I got nicked and that, and then when I was on tag, obviously I couldn't go out with the lads doing naughty things or whatever, so I just got really high at home for a while on my own, and then that kind of lost its fun. There's only so much FIFA you can play, and my mate just brought round a bench press and was like, well, why don't you do this? And I was like, well, that's lame. And then the bench press, he came over and we did a few sessions, and then evenings I'd just be looking at it. And then after a while I was like, well, I'll do it, when he's not here or whatever. And then I was like, okay, I'm actually feel a bit more balanced from doing this. I didn't train legs, I was just arms and bench or whatever. And just quite quickly I became pretty strong, just from training in the bedroom. And I was like, well, I think I was on tag 6 months, probably trained for 4 months, and I was like, well, I'm kind of bigger than most people that go to the gym already. It was that bit of just that one part of my day that was set. So whatever carnage was in the rest of my life, I had that one thing that I did, and I was shit at diet and stuff like that, but I wasn't really paying attention to that. But my life was such a clutter that was still one more thing more structured than anything else I'd ever done. So there's at least one kind of positive aspect. And then as soon as I was allowed out, I joined a gym, which was like a health club, because there weren't that many proper gyms, and there weren't any near me anyway. I didn't drive or anything because I didn't have any money. So I did that. I was doing site work and stuff. So I would go and work on site, or I built skate parks at one point, doing concrete pours and manual label stuff, doing the doors as well, just whatever to get some money, and I was just training. And then eventually I was still boozing and that a little bit on the weekends. And then after a while I was like, I'm doing all this work in the gym, and then on the weekend I'm going out getting smashed, and I'm kind of deleting the work that I'm doing. So I started going out less, and then basically an opportunity kind of arose to go. I got accepted to London College of Music, basically, which was at the time a pretty good music university. And my parents were both pro musicians and stuff, so music was always in my family. It was always pushed. And anyway, I got into university, and I was a bit older than everyone else. And they were all doing MCAT or whatever and listening to dubstep, which I didn't understand. I was a drum and bass man, and so I just. I wouldn't say lonely because I wasn't really interested in it, but I was a bit of a lone ranger because I just wasn't involved in that, and the girls were 18 and I was not, and so I just found this shit gym in Brentford that was just filled full of Asian rude boys, and made friends with the top Asian rude boy, and we would train every day or whatever, and then I started getting a little bit more into the diet, eating as cheap as I could, because obviously I was a student as well at this point. But the things in the training and just that one thing a day, and then the diet, gave me the structure to be able to complete a degree. And I left school with nothing. I went to a special unit school, which was bad, shall we say. If it kicked off in the classroom, the the teachers would lock us inside and they would leave until it had like calmed down. Kids making shifts with table legs and shit. And I was like, I was quite naughty, but I wasn't a bad man. I wasn't,
Yeah.
you know. So I was like, so anyway, I managed to do that degree, and I really do think like the structure of the training like allowed me to do it and stay focused because I wasn't academic in that way. But I guess I was creative, and that kind of got me through that. And when I finished the degree, I thought, well, I'm going to do a show.
Brilliant.
And I didn't know anything about it. I only knew one person who'd done a show ever, and his name was also Dan. And I did my whole prep on an email that was meant for someone else, but it gave me like an idea of like whatever. And this guy kind of showed me some poses, which looking back, he wasn't very good at either, which then in turn made me definitely not very good at them. And so it was horrible, really. I was in condition, but I didn't really, it wasn't, I did watch it not that long ago. It was pretty bad. But, you know, first show, now people go first show, they get a coach, they've got loads of information and stuff. We didn't have any of that. Instagram didn't exist. You know, I spoke to people about things that you could use and stuff and kind of just, well, if I just do less than they're saying, then that'll be all right. And then I just kind of, I lost horribly, and I didn't like that very much. And but I kind of liked the process of it and all that. And then yeah, that was like the set of the competitive thing, and then yeah, and then I came back, and then I did a teacher training course and became a teacher. And I really don't think I would have been able to do any of those things unless I think that training is like a skill that's transferable in like discipline, doing the things that you don't necessarily want to do. Yeah, cool, I love music or whatever, but I didn't really want to write essays about it and stuff like that. Teacher training I found really, really hard, but so hard that it really was like amazing. It was definitely like harder than any show I've done. It was a year, so I had to do the whole thing in 1 year. It was like placement and doing university, and I was working the doors like 4 or 5 nights a week as well. So it was pretty gnarly, and I did compete that year as well, which was a stupid idea. But I think I came second or whatever, so I was kind of getting better at the same. I was young, do you know what I mean? You remember when you were young and you could do lots of stuff without dying? So it's not something I'd be able to.
Was this then? So that the transition, how far back are we looking from now with this?
So I got my last run in with the police was I was 20, 20. And so when I went to, I think it was, no, I was 19. And then when I went to Crown Court and all that, then it kind of came to a head. And then I was on tag when I was 21. So I first picked up a weight in my bedroom at 21. And then I first joined a gym at like 22. And then I did my first show at 23, I think, which was 2010. Maybe the math is wrong on that, but yeah. So I did 2010, the NABBA West, which was like it was a thing where it was like an old man's club, you know, like people in Exeter would like, oh, well, what's going on today? Well, there's a bodybuilding show, and like normal people would go. You know, but it was kind of the working man's sort of thing of just people would go just to see it sort of thing, which is a bit different because no one goes, people go to watch one person that's like their mum or something, and then they're not interested in the show, or you know, because you can see it all on Instagram, right? Whereas
stream it.
You couldn't see bodybuilders, so you go to your local show and be like, "This is fucking weird," and get, you know, normal people would just drink beer and go, "That's weird." And like it was like a freak show sort of thing, which was cool. And then I did a bunch of shows that on my own. I coached myself all the way through until I met Amph in like 2017, I guess it must have been.
Got you.
And that's
when you went on to do the Mr. Universe as well. If I've got my notes right,
I did the British first.
Got you.
So I won the British overall in 2018, and then 2019 I won my class in the Universe, and then came, I think it was third in the Pro. But I'd missed out on the overall, so I was pretty pissed off about that. But I met Amph in 2017 for the release of his DVD, 100%. or nothing. Or was it
That's
100%?
like
No, it
my
was
copy.
100% nasty. It was 100% nasty. 100% or nothing came earlier. Um,
Yeah.
and I just basically, my friend Greedish had filmed it, and I said, "Oh, can I come? Because I think these are my people." Because I've always trained like that, and maybe we'll get onto that later. But yeah,
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
the whirlwind um, kind of
Fabulous.
highlight is that my friend Felix brought over the bench. He was struggling with some stuff himself, and we
Yeah.
kind of bonded over that. And I do want to say his name because it actually didn't save him, and unfortunately did kill himself
Oh, okay.
later on. But I always like to say his name and mark it that he was part of that transition that I think like changed my whole like direction. I was the kid who like people would ask my mum like, "How's Dan?" Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it's,
No, 1,000,000%. No, bless them. That's
um, and that's part of the thing. Like most people that train at a high level like need to do it, and I did need to do it. And unfortunately for Felix, it still wasn't enough. But I'd like to say his name.
yes. No, please. That's no. I appreciate that. And as I say, it was obviously a very important part of your journey. And going back to your journey for a second, where was the turning point where you said you were going all in? Because of course, the British finals, the universe, everything incredibly high level. So what was the point where you kind of really dialed in and said, right, this is everything. I'm going for it. Because of course when you the Mr. Universe, the class one, incredible to achieve. So was there a particular moment that you really backed yourself with it all, Dan?
I mean, I thought I was all in for the first one because I was ignorant. I thought I was good. Like, I thought I was good, but I just wasn't in the circles to know that I was shit. I was big fish, small pond. You know what I mean? So, time when I went in was probably 2000 and I did 2012. I did body power, and
Right, yeah.
there was no physique guys. So this was before even physique. So there were no classes really. Um, and I won by default. I won a lineup. There was like Neil Arms, a guy called Garrett Baldwin who won, and there was Sando. That level, 2012.
Mhm.
And then we went on. I went on to do the British, and I came. I think I came sixth or whatever. And Garrett won. I think Luke Sando came second. Um,
Mhm.
anyway, it was that time, and I think it was then. I'd been to the British, which was cool, and I didn't get like I was like okay,
Yeah, yeah.
um, but they used to do an intermediates, and
Right.
the intermediate super heavyweight was 90 plus, but I was always over 100 kilos anyway because I'm 6'2".
Right. I
So
was going
like
to say, yeah, when I've stood next to you, like, oh, Dan.
me under 100 kilos, like look, it looks like I don't train. So I've never. That's why NABBA kind of suited me. So that's why I went from like that British. I went and won the Kent Classic like the year before. I had surgery in between that. I had blood clots, so I had all my superficial veins stripped from my legs, which obviously everyone would like to think was training. But I spoke to the vascular surgeon, and he said, apart from it being hereditary, my mum and sister have them and stuff like that. But he said working on the doors, standing stationary is like the worst thing that you can do for that. So
Right.
I'm not sure
So,
bodybuilding made it any better. But anyway, that put me out for a while. And I remember like I was out for quite a while because I had to 52 incisions because they said like the muscles had kind of like grown around these veins and stuff. So it was a lot bigger than it
right.
should have been. Um, and I remember, and it was kind of from the bed. I was like, I booked a show from in the bed, and I think that's when I went full tilt because I was so pissed off about having to have all this
Yeah.
time off. And then I went the Kent Classic that year, and I did go to the British, but I got destroyed at the British because it was the supers. And we're talking, the lineup was um, Jamie Johal, Samson,
Oh, wow.
Hollingshead, like
Um,
like it was, and I got absolutely rightfully so like destroyed. And there were some other great guys that are pros as well now. So it came
yeah.
to fame, competed against Samson and Hollingshead, obviously.
Yeah.
Got absolutely destroyed. Hollingshead was actually like just coming up, and then I think he won his pro card the year after.
Well, yeah. He's
Um,
he's done incredibly well.
yeah,
It's,
and it was then that I thought I'm not big enough for super. I need to move to NABBA, where at least I'm next to people that are taller. I mean, okay, I was against Jamie Johal, but he was for his height is still it's phenomenal. Like how he was at that height, like the fullness in his limbs and everything. Like we forget how good Jamie was. It's just that he was such an outlier. He couldn't really win because he was either first or like down. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And if they awarded him first, who was coming second? Like it didn't the
Yeah.
demographic didn't make sense. But yeah, as a taller guy, I suited NABBA more because I was taller. I don't have like a pretty physique, and I could get dirty conditioning.
That's
And
the pictures I've seen. Like I say, obviously when I've trained with you now and again, it don't reflect. Like that's one thing I'll say. Like your arms like bloody road maps, you know.
I could always get dirty. I could suffer. So I knew if I brought dirty conditioning to NABBA, that would be. Do you know what I mean? I could outride shape. Whereas like UKBFF was still like the a package. You know, these were the elite guys that had pretty physiques but were also huge. So I went down the NABBA thing. I won the British overall. Amp coached me for that. That was the first year that we did that. And then the universe. And then obviously once I'd won like the NABBA Pro card, I was
Yes.
like, well, there's not a lot going on at NABBA now because there's not really any pro shows anyway. So I flew to Amsterdam and came fourth at the pro qualifier in Amsterdam, and then I thought, well, the site is set. This is kind of where I need to be, and I've just kind of been knocking on the door like ever since 2019 because I haven't won a show since 2019.
I think.
So so
uh,
like
yeah.
it's bad, but like other could I have won some shows? I mean, I could have been a fucking astronaut. If I'd have trained to be an astronaut. You've got to be
Yeah.
as good as you can do every time you show on stage, and you've got to be in it to win it. So I'm not complaining. There are shows where I could go, well, I could have won that, but you're not fucking there, are you? So I've lost.
Well. Yeah.
But
That's.
I'd rather turn up at shows with great guys and get
Yeah.
beaten than purposefully pick shows. But if there's a super, super strong lineup, I'm probably not going to win. I'm not the genetic elite. The guys that, you know, could I win a pro card? Yeah. Am I going to, you know, like, is it a dead cert? Well, obviously not because I haven't done it yet.
You'll get it done. I'm sure.
Well, I'm 41
It's
now.
coming.
41 now.
And do you have sort of a time scale for yourself with
Well,
that?
it's a good question because the year that I just did was a test for me
Yeah.
to see whether I would retire. Retire, hilarious, making it sound like I'm actually like a professional sportsman. But I had an injury the year before, which really messed me up for a long time. Also in like my leg area because I tore my adductor, my
That's right.
hip flexor, and all that, and it took out like my legs and ultimately my glutes and all the posterior chain, and that's not something I can afford to lose. Like if I'd have had upper body injury, I probably could have worked around it
Mm.
a little bit better, but my legs were always the thing that I was concentrating on, which I concentrated on too much and fucked myself up. And so this was a test to see whether I could kind of rectify that situation. And so it was a big deal. But from this year, I think I was definitely better than the injury, and I think that I was a little bit better than the Arnold, which was my previous showing. So the marker had moved, but it was yeah, it was worrying because if I was worse, I can't do what I'm doing and take the things I'm taking to just get worse every year. I just refuse to do that. I've had a good innings. I've enjoyed it. I'm not dying. Like
Yeah.
I'd still always train.
Mhm.
I'm not force feeding cream of rice and doing Deca like to just get worse and worse. But
Yeah.
I got better, so that was a huge win for me. And I was in the mix. I
Big
came
time.
third place at a pro qualifier. Like the British was absolutely stacked. I was in the first call out, so I reckon I could turn it into a first at a show next
I
year.
believe you, Dan. 100%. And just for the folks that don't know so much about the competing side of things, what's the hardest part of getting competition ready that people don't realise? Of course, you touched on the conditioning front there. Would you say it's that, or are there many aspects that people just
It's a good
get
question.
wrong?
It's a good
Yeah.
question. I find because I'm a coach as well, and obviously I've seen thousands of different physiques through just knowing people or whatever. There are generally people that have an Achilles heel, and most
Hmm.
people are either good at getting in shape or they're good at getting big. So, and when you get both, you get Samson, and they just go wee, and they don't even really need to train hard. Sorry, Samson, but you're not blood and guts, are you? Like his training's like pretty medium. When I went to LA, like the like Sean Roden, they didn't need to. They could just kind of flush blood around, get a pump, and they get massive. So that wasn't it. Usually, people struggle with one or the other. I struggle with force feeding, getting big. So I find that the worst. I find it totally unnatural. I hate it. I feel horrible. I'm hot all the time. Um, but when it comes to getting in shape, like I'm pretty good at it. And I'm good at blocking out. I'm good at blocking out being hungry, like the food noise. Maybe it's because when I was a kid, like if you were hungry, it was tough shit. Wait, do you know what I mean? And that wasn't from like like that was just the era. Do you know what I mean? Like, only two generations, like, you had meat once a week. Like,
Yeah, no,
so it wasn't like poor meat. That was just a thing. Do you know what I mean? You had two pairs of shoes, your best and your fuck around. And there was,
uh,
so I was good at blocking that. Also, I was a skinny kid, so my body didn't really like being big. So to throw a load of weight off, it kind of like that. Don't get me wrong, like right, a couple of weeks out from a show, yeah, you're feeling pretty ropey. The one thing I really hate is bridging shows. So you're already in shape,
yeah,
and you've got another show, so you can't push hard. So actually, like, the mind's not actually stimulated of like, yeah, let's get leaner. And that's one thing I always used to fuck up before I met Amph is that I'd do the regional, win, do well, and then for the British, I'd push even harder and get worse.
mm,
So having Amph was like, no, no, you're already ready. Now we need to pull the fuck back. And you'll look better from doing that. And I was like, oh, God.
complete
So,
reversal. Yeah.
so I would say the hardest thing for me is bridging shows because you're already there, and it feels
Mhm.
like you're kind of spinning your wheels, like you're not building momentum, which is counterintuitive.
Got you.
Um, and I felt at times like eating like loads of food in between, not shit or anything, but just carbs went up between. I felt like I was like losing momentum and like you know
Mm,
that it felt like I wasn't even bodybuilding at that point. Because the
yeah,
turnaround from like dieting to feeling all right, it's like only a week really, and you feel like I'm not even dieting again. The body's quite um,
adaptive. Yeah.
yeah, quite adaptive. So yeah, for me, getting in shape was relatively most. I'd say most people it's the opposite.
Mhm.
People just aren't used to like the amount of messages are like, I feel hungry. I'm like, good. Like,
Yeah, means it's working.
yeah, I mean, it is, isn't it? Like being hungry is a totally normal thing to feel. It's a totally normal. It doesn't mean you have to eat. Like I know advertising tells you otherwise. Like,
Yeah,
but being hungry is fine. You're so far away from being in danger. Like, even if you're doing a bodybuilding show, you're eating 3, 4, 500 grams of protein. Like you can just eat that forever and you wouldn't die. You'd be all right.
yeah.
But people are like, oh, I'm fucking. So most people struggle with the prep. But I think prep gets easier the longer you do it because you know what to expect. And also, if you're trying to get rid of body fat that you've never got rid of,
Mhm.
that's actually harder. Whereas if I've done a show last year and I've already been in, that fat's
Mhm.
only that even like the baseline of fat's only sat there for like, you know, 12, 16 months. So I think
Yeah.
that the first time always sucks because you're not only just not mentally ready, but to get that fat that you've carried around potentially your whole fucking life.
Yes, literally, yeah.
Yeah, that's hard. Like it is harder.
Got you. And of course, with the coaching side of things, that's something that you do now. So I'm curious to know for yourself, what was the shift from the, just going into that field? Of course, you're obviously a music teacher as well.
Mm.
And if we've got time, we can maybe get into that a little bit.
Yeah,
Obviously, we've
yeah.
got similar backgrounds with that front. But again, it's kind of how did you get into the coaching and are you fully enjoying it? Is this the job for you, do you feel?
So I got into it because lots of people asked me,
Right.
and people when I was starting out, people didn't have a coach. You had a guy. I've got a guy. I'd write on a post-it note or back of a fag pack or whatever. Go and do this. I'll see you next week. And it usually be people you'd see in real life, which actually probably worked better. Um, and you just help them out. Like another set of eyes. Because most people knew what they were fucking doing, but they'd melt near them, and it was free. And
Yeah.
We just used to help each other out. Someone's done one show might help someone who's not done a show, and people who's done 5 shows might so help someone that's done one show. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? It was, and so people just kept like was asking me, and then I was like, okay, this is taking up like quite a lot of time, and I've got quite a few people asking me. So I'd heard of people coaching, and so I just
Yeah.
was like, 50, 50 quid a month or whatever, like. But if you were mates rates was like, I don't know, buy me a protein shake or something. And then it kind of grew some momentum, and then I just thought, actually, like I'm going to do it, and I was doing some coaching. I think it was actually a conversation with Jay Magic Eye, who was just like, you should just
Yeah.
do it, like you
Yeah.
should just do it. Like people are coaching and they don't know what they're fucking doing. You do. Why
Very
don't you
true.
just do it? And I was doing both, so I was doing teaching and coaching, and I got my numbers up to an amount where it was possible to quit teaching.
Wow.
But I always like at the beginning of teaching, I loved teaching. I loved it. It was
Mhm.
music teaching. It was great. And the
Yeah.
students came in and they wanted to do it and they loved it. And I was respected for my knowledge. And it didn't really feel like work. Okay, doing marking was shit. But ultimately, I was a load of young kids that were like super enthused, had ideas, young ideas that I could feed off as well. It was great. And then they raised the school education leaving age to 18, and that brought like behavioral issues. It brought people that actually didn't want to be there. They just couldn't think of anything. You could just imagine the careers advisor at their school going like, oh,
Yeah.
what do you like doing? I don't like anything, bitch. Oh, okay, do you like music? Yeah, love music. Yeah, all right, why don't you go and ruin Dan's life? And so we got behavioral issues. We got people that didn't want to be there.
Yeah.
And for the amount of money that I got paid, which was 28 grand a year, which is pretty shit for like teaching, was like
Oh, 100%.
a
Yeah.
huge part of my day, my life, and also a constant stress because you give a fuck about the kids as well. You worry little Jimmy's like got problems or whatever, and like
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
take quite a lot of that home, and you're like, oh well, maybe I could log in at home and have a look and give some feedback on some work, or the task is never done, and
Yes. There's
and
no switch off.
management kind of started to use the commitment to helping people as a way of just getting more and more and more. So it was like you used to be able to do your lessons, and as long as you'd done all your work, you could just go home. Then it was like
Yeah.
you have to stay until 5:30. So I would just sit in the building doing actually nothing because also I can't do a block of like an hour marking. Once I've set it up or whatever and got into the mind for it, it's just not worth it.
No.
So little
Right.
stupid things like that, and then there was huge systems of tracking, and then there was just this one point where they were like, "Do you want to remark this?" And I was like, "No," because I've marked it already. And it was like, "Well, we're not sure about the grading criteria. Maybe it's hit it or whatever." And I was like, "Well, actually, me and my colleague have written the only music tech access course for the whole country. So if they're teaching it, I wrote it, so I do know what it means because I fucking wrote it."
Yeah.
And just despite my manager at the time writing her name on it, pretending she'd written it, just little things like that.
Yeah.
I just thought, you know what, the kids fucking hate me. Um, not all of them, but it used to be back in the day. I'd have a few success stories and a couple of kids. I'd be like, you're gonna do something. Do you know what I mean? And it was like elevating, and it just got to the point where maybe there was one, and the talent coming through was less, and people just we put on like a leavers like party like at the end, and I think the last one like 2 people came, and I just thought, oh fuck this for 28 grand a year. And
Yeah.
then I just started coaching. I just transitioned over, and I basically just took the hit on the money because my coaching was already like all right, and it hasn't really grown since then, to be honest. I'm not very good at advertising. I'm not a pusher either. I know if you come to me and you're not going to be a dick, then let's do it. But I'm not going to push it. People like,
Yeah. All the sales tactics and everything. I think that's a podcast in itself. All this about trying to turn everyone into Jordan Belfort and fleece people for hundreds of pounds a month. It's
it's just not.
in some cases thousands.
Yeah, and I just but ultimately it's the same.
Yeah.
Hopefully, I'm getting people that want to do a thing or learn a thing, and I can
Mhm.
help them learn a thing and do a thing. And so it's kind of the same as teaching. In teaching, I spent most of the time talking about how the students actually are and their barriers to learning. They're outside the actual curriculum. And with coaching, it's kind of the same.
Yeah.
Spend most of the time talking about how they are and how their life is and their barriers to actually going eating food. Like
Yeah,
it's very similar, actually. So so yeah, do I like it? I love certain aspects of it.
of course.
Um, Sometimes I am shocked at the lack of resilience of
Mm.
people, just generally. Like, but then it's because I don't understand. I have to not judge people by my own standards, for sure. So it can be challenging, but I love a reveal. I love a reveal. The big one of the biggest reveals probably is women that starve themselves, and then you show them like how to manipulate metabolism and training that you're not going to get fat, you're not accidentally going to turn massive, and then you give them the reveal of like, look, here's what you were when you were eating nothing, and here's you like leaner, eating more,
Yeah,
and it's like you're proving it to them because culture for women is cancerous. Big companies targeting people, even this fucking Monjaro shit, like people just dissolving their bones because they're eating nothing. Like it's all targeted to women. It's all like compacted with Instagram false beauty. It's like, so
yeah,
being able to get women and help them to kind of realize that that's actually bollocks,
yeah,
is really good. And obviously putting people into shows and stuff like
yeah,
that.
of course.
I do find women a little bit easier, not gonna lie.
That's interesting. Very
Um,
interesting. Oh, a great couple of words you used there. You said manipulate metabolism. So I'm just curious if you could just talk to us a little bit about that and just explain kind of what you mean. A little bit tactics you might use for, say, perhaps a fat loss client and
Yeah.
different, perhaps male, female.
So like the extreme version is like to like a metabolism that's fucked is like my wife's brother, who is like 6'6", 24 stone, and probably eats once a day. Yeah. He's
Yeah,
fucking massive. He plays rugby, he's massive, he likes a beer, don't get me wrong. But ultimately, like, do you know what I mean? That's not a performance. What like his metabolism is
yeah,
should be able to eat more than that. So I mean, some people
cool.
say you can't manipulate metabolism. I've seen hundreds of examples of if you're also using the body to need uptake of more nutrients simultaneously, then the progression feels the need for food and metabolism does upregulate. And everyone's found that in dieting. You do a crash diet and you
Yeah,
lose loads of weight really quickly, and then your body adjusts so that it can, because your body wants myostasis, right? It wants to stay the same.
yeah, yeah,
Because
yeah.
changing is dangerous. Change is dangerous. I must live. So the idea that your body can't slow its metabolism down, like, kind of doesn't really make much sense when you actually look at it. There's lots of examples of where that's not the case. Lots of very big people eating not a lot.
Yeah.
So most of the time, I'd get the most common thing, and I use a woman as an example, is a woman comes to me and she's doing loads of cardio. She's eating fuck all and she's not losing any weight. And ultimately, she's like dissolved all her muscles. She's skinny fat, but she's lost weight. So she's kind of happy. I don't want to put on weight.
Yeah.
And then I basically like, she's probably not following a diet. She's just starving herself, thinking it's good intermittently. That sort of thing. There's no
Yeah.
regularity to the food intake. So I'll just kind of picture guesswork based on what she looks like, what she's doing, and then the training plan and everything like that. And once her weight is stabilized, like ground zero, I'll look at it and be like, okay, like, what can we actually do? Know if we stabilize the food and
Hmm.
she wants to diet, and we've actually created a window. We've brought cardio down slightly, weight training is going well, and food has like stabilized at a good point. I'd be like, okay, well, like actually we could. There is a runway. We've got a toolbox. We've got food we could take out. But most of the time, once you've hit ground zero, and I do this pretty much with everyone, find ground zero because I want to
Okay.
find where your body doesn't change, so that I can make small changes. Obviously, that only
Okay.
works if their adherence is good.
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
But most of the point of finding ground zero, and their food's still low, so I'll just start kicking up the food. First around the training window and stuff that hopefully is going to be fueled and stuff, and also make sure that the meals are being eaten at the right time. Maybe they'll only start on three, try and get a fourth one in, and
Hmm.
try and get more food in. And then I'll just push and push and push and find the point where it just starts to tip over. And usually, I mean, it's going to tip over because food weighs stuff. When you eat it, it is inside you.
Yeah.
And it also holds a certain amount of water when it's inside you. and water. You know, people are like, oh, I didn't drop a pound, you know, I only dropped half a pound. And it's like, you know, or I put on half a pound. It's like a piss is half a pound. Do you know,
Mm.
like a big
Yeah,
piss.
literally. Yeah.
Um, so I would usually claw that up, and then I'd say 99% of the time after I've gone through that ground zero and push,
Hmm.
that we look at it and we do a comparison and we're like, well, actually, you actually lost body fat doing this.
Mm.
Yeah, so you actually like lost body fat from doing this. Like you have a you know, it's not a quick thing, but it's a sustainable model. Um, and then I say we can now fully attack body fat loss if you want. Yeah. So and then usually at this point they're like, I'll tell you what, Dan, we'll do whatever you want to do. And I go, well, I want to push food more.
Yeah.
And so we can push food more. And quite a few examples that are happening right now with some clients is they're eating like 2, 3 times as much food. Their weight training's in place. They've got
Well,
used to eating it. At first, it was a struggle. Their timings got better. They're training harder. Um, and then I put the comparisons, and not only are they eating more food, and they weigh roughly the same, but their body composition's totally different. They've actually lost loads of body fat.
mm.
Then I'll usually rinse that out, and they'll be like, right, the food's a bit too much or whatever, and I want to do a cut. Then we've got a toolbox. Cardio's lower, so we can always do more.
Yeah.
The food is higher, so we can bring it down. And usually the same calories that I've added to put on basically no weight, yeah, or a pound or two, I don't know, I can use those same calories to make them drop 10, 15, possibly more pounds on the way down.
Okay.
You know, whereas if I get to them and they're like, I want to do a diet, cool, what's your diet like? Well, it's nothing, and I'm doing 2 hours of cardio a day. Where the fuck do I go from that?
Yeah. So
You know?
that makes sense. So just kind of, as you said, a great term you used there, ground zero. So that's just finding that baseline, and we can work from there.
Yeah.
It's almost like rebuilding someone in a sense, isn't it? And then you get an understanding of how the body works in
And,
a way.
and I do that with everyone. Because
Right.
remember, you're going to give them new training, right? Well,
Yeah.
that's going to have a new impact on how many calories you burn. Maybe you're going to give some cardio. Maybe you're going to take some cardio away. Maybe they've been saying they've been doing a diet and they fucking haven't because no one else has been in charge of it. So I'm
Yeah.
basically just going to take the information that they've got with a little bit of what I know about people, and I can
Mhm.
make it. I don't know about you. I've seen enough bodies where I can kind of guess like what sort of, you know, I'm not really into the whole mesomorph shit or whatever, but
Yeah. Yeah.
do you know what I mean? Get a pretty good ankling for someone who looks like they should eat more and not, and where to play it.
Mhm.
And also, I have diet plans for every metabolic kind of grouping that I've created in my head within
Mm.
every 2 kilos for both genders. Like I've accumulated that. So, oh, not cookie cutter. Most people do start with a cookie cutter based on a similar physique type within a two
Right.
kilo window. And then I take their adjustments and their preferences into play because
Interesting.
you have to start somewhere.
Just
You have
to get. Yeah. That's interesting. I like that.
and
Um,
and I do that with everyone because if I can find ground zero, then I don't have to make huge stabs in the dark hoping it does it. If I've got ground zero and I want you to drop weight, I can do that with a couple of hundred calories on each change. Do you see what I
yeah.
mean? And if I want to
Yeah.
push,
Clever.
I can
Clever.
do it in the same way.
Yes. Of
Um,
course.
so finding ground zero is something that people generally don't like when they're doing it because they're not making any progress. But usually in that
Mm.
time of solidifying ground zero, they actually end up looking better anyway, like
Yeah.
freebie. And then I go, right, now we can actually cut. The amount of conversations women have come to me and said, all right, I want to do a cut, I want to be lean. And I look at what they're doing and their training. I'm like, we can't do that. How are we going to do that? What, we do drugs?
Mm.
No, no, we shouldn't do drugs.
Yeah.
Well, my friend gets some Clen. I mean, no,
Yeah. It's just,
you know,
that's not the answer, really, is it? It's
and
not a super drug anyway. It's not like an overnight thing. And
no,
yeah,
but
there we,
a fucked body doesn't burn fat. A fucked body
yeah,
doesn't burn fat. Like if they're like doing that and they're chasing scales, like all the people on Montjaro, like they may be dropping weight, but like 2/3 of it's muscle mass. Like
yeah. But they
because they're
can't eat.
not. they're not
Yeah.
eating. Imagine someone who's like, what? How did you get fat? Most people. Let's assume that you can have a thyroid issue that just makes you fat. Let's just not even have that
Yeah.
argument.
Yeah.
Unless you're genetically just fat and like, poor you have a safe space. Like you you've got fat by eating shit, right? Most people. We'll just say for argument's sake, most people. So now I give you a drug that makes you want to eat less. So now you eat less shit. Yeah. So whereas when you're eating lots of shit, you blanket bomb possibly some micronutrients and things that might actually look after you with an
Mhm.
abundance rubbish. Yeah. But you're still fulfilling your body's like needs of micronutrients and other things. Now I give you a jab and you eat just a little bit of McDonald's and other shit.
Yeah.
Now
So,
you don't have any nutritional value. And
and
so that's
yeah.
why people are getting like osteoporosis and fucking like
Yeah.
their
And what happens
hair's
when the
falling out.
jab's taken away? What happens when they stop? You know?
Well, that's another story completely.
Yeah.
Because ultimately, a GLP, if you could harness all the strength and take your GLP and eat exactly what you did before you took it, you wouldn't lose any fucking weight because it's not a fat burning drug. It doesn't burn fat. All it does is make you fucking eat less. So it's basically just, um, it's a grit modulator. If you've got no fucking grit, it'll make you just not want to eat much. I saw a program, some twat from Love Island or whatever, and she was calling it a fat loss drug. It's not a fucking fat loss drug.
No, it's no thermogenic benefit, has
Like,
it?
don't get me
It's not.
wrong, like we've got Retatutide now, which has the GLP and the other ones, and that does have benefits, glucose disposal,
Yeah.
and also
But I
like
think we'll try and touch on Retta. I was going to try and bring that in.
yeah.
Yeah.
So so
Keep
so
going. Yeah.
I'm just talking like about that. But yeah, ultimately, like you're going to eat less shit, and people are going to be fucked. So yeah, I'm sure there was an earlier point I was trying to come back to that I failed to do.
Yeah. I think it
But
was
yeah,
when you were saying about harnessing your JLP-1, if you could like take that but you would still not lose any weight. You would still
yeah,
be, because it's not actually directly working on fat cells. It's
yeah,
just stopping you from eating,
yeah,
basically.
yeah, yeah. So if you forced all the food that you were eating before, you'd be just as fat. It doesn't actually do anything. It just makes you not want to eat. So then you can have freedom of will, and
Mhm.
your freedom of will is to eat less.
So,
Um, but yeah, like ultimately, yeah, the setup for most people is I have a look, I find ground zero, and then that will determine what the options are. And sometimes we find ground zero and we go, well, actually, you could do either. You're not
yeah,
too fat to bulk, because obviously you don't want to bulk when you're too fat.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
for the reason like insulin sensitivity, because once you've gone past the point of like, being super insulin resistant, you're then more susceptible to gathering more fat.
yes.
So like, you know, but sometimes people come and they can kind of go either way, and then they can lead, their goal, and then then we set up smaller goals. Maybe they have a goal of competing later down the line, but okay, we can do either.
Fabulous. Yeah, I like that. And just again, we're on the sort of the weight loss drugs there. You did briefly mention retatrutide. Could you just give us a little bit around that? Of course, I believe that's working on 3 different pathways. It's a JLP-1, glucagon receptor, and the other one's just skipped my mind. GIP,
G,
I think.
yeah, yeah. So
Um,
it's
yeah, give us that. Yeah.
well, I mean, I'll give you it in layman's terms.
Yes.
So ultimately, it has the GLP, so it has like semi-glutides, basically. Like that's
Uh-huh.
one of the things that it has. But the things that has the health benefits are the other impacts. It's actually good for like diabetes because it regulates um, blood sugar, which help. It kind of has a glucose disposal like effect. So it could be the end of like metformin as well, which became
Wow.
quite popular at one point. It could be a good replacement for that. I know people that are type 1 diabetic that found that it helps even you know, without having physiological um, insulin, you know. I won't name names, but it seemed to
No,
have
no,
good
no. Yeah.
good effect there. So it does actually work. So if people are thinking of doing Rata, it's going to make a good situation good, but it will still make a bad situation worse because the GLP in relation to the other drugs actually isn't that high. So if you've been boosting, 12 milligrams of semaglutide like a
Mm.
week, doing like a touch of like um God, whatever I'm fucking talking about.
Better.
Um yeah, doing a touch of Retta probably isn't gonna do it. So people
Yeah.
do sometimes not like it because also it's if you tried to run the same GLP kind of feeling of food noise, it would also be incredibly expensive.
Yeah.
So I think that's why people I mean, people are starting to in bodybuilding do it because it does actually have like other benefits
Hmm.
beyond curbing like the food noise. I personally think as a bodybuilder, like feeling hungry and feeling like it's kicking you in the dick is part of the process and what makes it great because ultimately you're going to a day where you stand in pants, like earn it, earn it. And
Yeah.
I kind of like the self, like being hungry and feeling fucked, whether it's like stimming. It's
Yeah.
somewhere where my mind is occupied all the time with like suffering's a strong word, but like discomfort, self-induced discomfort. And I
Mhm.
find that like a little bit magical.
Nice. It's whatever gets you through it, isn't it? It's trying to take a little bit of pleasure in a way in sort of the process of it, and embracing the journey. And there's other people doing it, and if you're going as hard as you can, hopefully you're gonna do well on the day with these things as well.
Yeah.
It's putting in the hard yards to enjoy the day and look your best,
Well,
I suppose.
as well, like the training for me was always like training had to be so hard. And why I kind of went to high intensity training, which meant the volume had to be lower for recovery, because high intensity is actually super about recovery. It's actually not about fucking yourself. It's about short, sharp bursts. So people think it's
Mhm.
about fucking yourself into the ground. It's
Yeah.
actually built for the opposite reason. It was actually
Mhm.
built as recovery as the main focal point. And people think that it's not. But actually, like a lot of the research says, like volume is like one of the biggest factors of
Yeah.
fatigue. So actually, the whole thing was built against fatigue, which is why the volume is so low. But the point I was getting is that training for me was an escape, and for me to actually escape like my own self, basically, to only think about numbers and sets, and for it to be that intense where I could, isolate into just that, like a
Yeah.
meditation, it had to be really hard. And
That's
it was,
fine.
and so I think that with the training, that's was my that was what I always loved about it was that for that short period, it was something just for me, and it was something where I could think about nothing else. And I think that prep is an extension, like, of that, where part of it being hard is part of the joy, like the journey to the end. If it's easy, is it really a journey? Like I don't.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm
I
turning into
mean,
a bit of a fucking hippie now, but do you know what I
no,
mean?
it makes sense. No, you've got to. That's it. It's all part of it because I think bodybuilding as a whole, from what I've seen, and if I ever end up doing a show myself, it's a short career, isn't it? It's not a long sort of thing that you can do. You want the good stories and the good, the, almost the battle scars from it, in a way, and get sort of them things along the way, those rewards, those memories, and so on. And it all just feeds in the journey and the story and making it as glamorous in a way and as fun as possible, I suppose, in a sense, and getting out of it whatever you can.
Well, yeah, I mean, I just think that it just makes you more resilient. I think that's one
Yeah,
of the
it has a lot of crossover.
great things
Yeah,
about bodybuilding that made me more resilient. I thought I was super resilient as a young kid because I was like, oh, a fucking lad geezer, mate. Um,
yeah.
but like, I was like probably like, weaker. And I'm not saying this is a huge hardship. It's not war. It's not, like,
We
it's not
get to do
huge.
it, don't we? It's the choice.
Yeah. And it's the path that you choose, and you should know that it's hard, and you should embrace when it's there. And
That's
it's
I like that.
and so like the GLP and all that sort of thing, you're taking a drug that just removes a feeling.
Mm.
To me, that makes no sense. With Retta, it's kind of there's another like edge to that sword because it does actually have benefits as well. But the
Yeah,
idea of doing a GLP so that to remove a feeling, like I,
Yeah.
I don't resonate with that. For like, I mean, I'm sure there are some instances where people like are so like mentally ill level associated with food. Like, then yeah,
Mhm.
maybe because I don't have
Yeah.
anything against psych drugs and stuff like that, and like people are mentally struggling, like sertraline to have like a respite of maybe people have that in food, like it's possible, like
Mhm.
so yeah, I get that, but not at the
Okay.
level that we're seeing the people using these drugs.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, there's a lot. I mean, I was speaking to a lady the other day, actually from the Daily Mail. She was kind of asking me a little bit about these things with being in the industry. And what Sam asked was, are you aware that people are getting things just through TikTok? They just, I don't know if it's TikTok shop or something. I post a TikTok, but I don't exactly spend time in it. I just stick content on there that I post to Instagram and everywhere. But yeah, Sam was saying that it's a thing of like folks are just buying anything. They're just going, oh, so and so's selling this. Here's a link. I'll send it. You could be getting anything. It's very, very dangerous
Yeah,
as
I mean,
well. You could be putting anything in it, or they could be filling with water. We don't know. It's very dangerous. It's kind of getting very underground, even just for you know day to day kind of normal people, if you like.
yeah, I mean, I get messages about people like, oh, I did a shot and it like hurts, and I'm like, you do know you're injecting yourself with a solution that might be made in someone's bathtub, like, you,
Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
there's
Even if you had like,
underground labs. Yeah.
even if you had the cleanest stuff, you are still putting a foreign body into you, like.
Yeah,
That is quite a big step, and I think that that does have but people are like, well, you can't just inject yourself with stuff and expect like consistently like nothing to happen. Like, I
yeah,
think people will do anything, but they're so confused if there's a small like blip in the road. It's like
yeah.
you're getting a needle and you're putting it in yourself, and you've got some swelling. Like, welcome to real life. Like fuck
It's
me.
right. Yeah, and you just, as I say, it's been fantastic having you on. I promise we will try and wrap this up because I know you said half eight, so
Right.
I've got my
Okay.
notes. I'm trying to
All
get
right.
through things as best I can. But of course, we did a great dive there on the nutrition front. I'd love to know a little bit more about the training. Of course, you're very inspired through Anth and Dorian on the hit front, the intense training. But is there any sort of philosophies you generally have around training, or any sort of any kind of things you wish would like come to an end with training in terms of like myths or anything like that you're seeing from perhaps the new school front and that
Yes.
kind of thing?
I mean, I like yeah, I started training, and I've found that I really enjoyed training hard, and I
Yeah.
very quickly got rid of what was in all the magazines at the time, apart from Dorian, which was the three set thing. I
Mm-hmm.
very, very quickly moved to two,
Got
um,
you.
because I just felt like, even mentally, my thought on the three set thing is you do your first set, and you've got two. So subconsciously, especially if you're new to training, subconsciously you've got two, so you're probably going to let up. And if
Yes.
you look at a lot of people that like, oh, I do four sets, you're like, I'm looking at two warm-ups. And like, so the first set I've got two and I kind of know. And then the second one I was like, oh, that was hard. So I have the fear of the first one, the fatigue of the first one, and also knowing I have
Yeah.
one more. And then I have my third set when I'm fatigued from two. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it very quickly didn't make that much sense to me. So I quite quickly moved to two. And I was always like, I was a Dorian fan, he was grit, he was British, like,
Yeah.
Blood and Guts just sang to me. The video, like, obviously Ronnie Coleman's videos were like, what the
Yeah.
fuck? But I didn't find that relatable. Here's a black guy that's like the biggest human on the planet, and
Yeah.
he's like squatting like fucking 800 pounds, or like it was
Incredible.
it was just. Whereas Dorian, it kind of sang to me, and like, and watching Leroy and Blood and Guts, I must have watched it like 1,000 times.
Oh yeah.
Um, and it just that's what sang to me. And so I was already training in that style, and then I was lucky enough to actually meet Amp and train with Leroy, and Leroy is now a good friend of mine. And I did train with Dorian as well, and I think that most training will work as long as it's hard. So
Yeah.
for me though, I always put intensity at the top, because you have like three main things. It's like you have intensity, you have volume of the session, and then you have frequency, how often you can do it.
Yeah.
Now, you should train as hard as you can, as often as you can, with as high volume as you can. That's
Yeah.
my philosophy. But I always built from the starting point of being the hardest. You should train the hardest first and then
Yeah.
experiment with your volume and your frequency afterwards. Like
Mhm.
that was always my thought process, is that I will build the other two variables that allow me to recover, but the primary thing is training as hard as I physically can.
Right.
And that kind of like that is hit training. That is
Yeah, of course.
that is what it is. And it just so happened that if I trained as hard as I actually could, the volume was
Yeah.
very low and the frequency was really low. At one point between the British and the universe, where I probably made some of the biggest gains, like show to show, I trained 3 days a week and I trained every body part every 8 to 10 days.
Wow. Wow.
And I probably made the biggest jump by doing even less. But it was very anxiety driven. Say I've got like a set of like leg press or something, and I've got one set, and I know that that's my only chance for 10 days. Now,
Wow. Yeah.
if you can dial it in and really do it,
Yes.
I think it's a great thing. As I've got a bit older, it was just too much, and also the potential. I mean, I didn't get injured through this period at all, but the potential to throw caution to the wind with that amount of pressure, it was a
Yes.
great and a very aggressive bubble to live in if you could pull it off. Not
Okay.
many people can do that, and I couldn't do it for very long. But when I got in the bubble and got into a rhythm with it, I did make the best gains of my life.
Well, that's definitely an interesting point, and it certainly takes away from, I know there's plans out there where people are hitting the same body part 3 times a week, and maybe that's the reason why they might be a little bit stuck. They actually need to just perhaps up the intensity, cut down on the frequency, and that's
I mean, I do
yeah,
with coaching as well. Like I do, there is a instance where like people just can't train that hard. I can't expect everyone to train like I actually like needed it. Like I needed to train hard. It was it it was, a need. And a lot of people that I've spoken to over the years or whatever, it was like an outlet. They needed it. And then I built everything else around the need to train like a fucking nutter. Um, and so most people that join, I give them a free PT session to come down, and if they're from the UK, most of them do. And then I
brilliant.
just I have a look at their training and I'll pitch their volume from that. Because
Class.
if you can't train at maximum intensity, then you probably do need to make up for it in either frequency or volume.
Yeah,
And also
yeah,
this is also dependent on the amount of muscle that people have. When you're starting out, you probably can train your entire body in a session and do it every other day or every day. You probably could do that because when you train legs, the amount of muscle for your combined legs is not very much.
no,
Do you see what I mean? So
so
it is a ever changing thing. With women, women want bigger posterior chain. Okay, so they do want to hit lower body more often. So you can split it, posterior chain and thing. Maybe you could have a leg.
got
So
you.
you could potentially be hitting legs 3 times a week, but the volume has to come from somewhere. So that upper training is usually like one day, and it's like a low volume. So like you can train a body part more often, I believe, still hard, but you
Yes.
have to take from somewhere else. Like
Okay.
someone said, say you've got a weak body part. Let's just assume you have, I don't know, like weak a weak back, and you want to hit
Yeah.
back twice a week.
That was
Well,
something definitely for me. Yeah. Go
okay,
on. Yeah. Back.
say you wanted so most people go, well, I'll just do more back on another day, right? But if your training's set up correctly for your recovery, if you just do more back, you'll push yourself over and you'll probably stagnate everything. So if you want to bring up a body part, yeah, you might be able to train it more than once a week, but you have to gather volume throughout your week from elsewhere to make it a
Yeah.
recoverable possibility. So you can't just add stuff in. And you see people's plans are like, well, I had weak biceps, so I did them twice a week, and then I thought I needed more shoulders, so I did them twice a week, and then you've got this mill.
Yeah.
So you can do things, and I do get the whole training thing more. Some people believe that it's better to do a small amount of valuable reps, because it's all about proximity to failure, right? You know, if you do 10 reps, but you could do 10 more, you'll get fucking nothing. Yeah. So people talk about opportunities to grow. So if I dip in and do like, 20 like sets in proximity to failure, yeah, like in one session to do 20 in another, like I can see, because we haven't really done that much damage until the next one. But if you're going to go and do like 40, then you might need the whole week. So I
Yeah.
get the method, and I've seen people where it works well, even people that are relatively big,
Hmm.
like being able to train them like twice a week, or women that train really hard, but their upper body is taking up some of that slack. But the idea is that for people that are training things more than once a week, I would say your volume needs to be even lower. But if you're not training that hard, then people talk about opportunities to grow. And I think that
Yeah.
it does make some sense, and there is some validity to that, and I've seen it work, so I'm not against it.
No, no.
But most people, when you quiz them, they don't even know why they're doing it, and they're just, well, I needed more back, so I did back more than twice. Oh, and I needed shoulders, and I'm like, I see their plan. I was like, you've just
Yeah.
added and added and added and added and added, and now you can't recover for it, and that's why you've got no gains.
That's interesting. Yeah.
So
It's junk volume, isn't it? That's a good term, I think. Junk volume.
yeah, that was another thing I ended up doing, was like just being relentless. Like, is at the end of the session me doing flies, is that why I grow? Is that the reason?
Wow. Yeah. It's just
And I'd
a
just be like,
feature, isn't it? Yeah.
just throw it in the fucking bin. At that point, I'm fucked anyway. I might as well be recovering. So
That's
being
fair.
relentless with that. But it takes some, and if people can't train like really hard, then you do have to make it up with volume. Because if you can't, I reckon I could get, let's say, like 5 reps within proximity to failure, which is deemed to be like, the valuable reps. Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Like, let's say you can't get 5, because 5 is like your mum's trapped in a burning car and you've got to get her out. That's only harnessable through a survival of like the most primal thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like bodybuilding probably doesn't mean like that much. We talked about Eddie Hall pulled the 500 and he like thought about his kids on fire or whatever. Let's say
Yeah.
that you just
Crazy.
can't harness that level of like, strength. Yeah. So let's say you've only got 4 like to play with. Yeah. You've only got 4 reps that are actually going to do anything. If you can't train that hard, you might have to do another set, and on set 1 you might get 2, and then on the other set you might get 1. Yeah.
Yeah, certainly.
And there's some validity to that. Just the high intensity things, like go for all 4 and then move on.
Yeah, that's fair. So Dan, it's been an absolute pleasure. Just looking to sort of wrap this up, because it's been fantastic. We must get a part 2 sorted. That would be brilliant, and we can go sort of more into the training and the nutrition. But
You have time for one more question if you have.
certainly. So, what upcoming goals do you have for yourself for 2026? What's on the horizon?
Well, I'm just going to rinse and repeat. I really quite liked the structure of the shows I did this year.
Brilliant.
So I
Same
quite
again.
like the time of year. I like to diet in the summer, because I
Nice.
find the heat isn't conducive for me like force feeding. I really hot, and eating loads of food like fucks me off. So I find dieting in the summer a lot easier. Also, like, get out with the dogs more, and like there's more stuff
Brilliant.
to do that isn't, your mates might ring you up and invite you to do something that isn't just drink beer and eat shit. So there's more opportunity to do stuff. And I'm not someone who does prep and just like hides on his sofa. Like, I will go and do stuff. I will
Yeah,
go and do stuff. You don't
that's
have
good.
to drink. You don't have to, you know. I got one message as well because I was in Miami and I was like, "Oh, you're doing prep in Miami." I was like, "You do know people actually live here, like in real life? Like,
Yeah,
what the fuck are you on about?" Like, yeah, I mean, I wasn't actually on prep, but I just thought, what a stupid thing to say. Like, people, wherever you go on holiday, people live there in real life. You can do it.
yeah.
Josh Law
You
did his
can
prep
do
in.
both.
Josh Law
Yeah,
did some of his prep in Dubai. Like, you don't
yeah.
have to. Like, what is?
You can have a life.
You can do whatever you want, but I think some people, you know, like, bring it upon themselves,
Certainly.
to like live in a box. So I liked doing the qualifier. I liked Lille because actually the Eurostar was super easy.
Oh, I love it. Yeah,
It was
it's
super. Yeah, it was super easy. It was easier than
Within
getting to
miles
London.
ahead of us.
Yeah, it was easy to get to London. It was easier to
Yeah,
get from London to France than to London.
yeah,
Um,
I agree.
and
That's
that was fairly stress free, and it was quite well run, and
yeah,
um, and I just think the British as well is like, why wouldn't you want to do the British? It's one of the hardest shows going, like because British are churning out great bodybuilders, which is
yeah.
wonderful. I'm
It's
always
surprising.
stoked. I'm always stoked about seeing a British that's stacked up. That's great, win or lose. Like British bodybuilding, like I'm really proud to even be a part of it. And we've always got people like at the Olympia and stuff. This tiny little piss hole in the sea. Like, I love that, and I'm proud of being a British bodybuilder. So
Absolutely.
so yeah, the British. I'm still chasing the card because stupidly I put it in my brain diary as something that I need to do. Yeah, I've probably got. Did you have anything else that you wanted to cover? Because it's only because I promised Alice I'd cook her a cote de boeuf. So
No, you must do that. It's the last one I'll ask you, Dan, is where is best to find you for folks to follow your journey,
uh,
reach out, that kind of thing.
yeah, so I'm on Instagram basically. I don't mess around with TikTok. I
Good.
just and yeah, Big Pal Nasty on
Fabulous.
on Instagram. Big up to DY Nutrition if you want to get a discount code for that. Thoroughbred Labs for all your peptide needs. Big plug.
Um,
If you like how I chat, then maybe we could coach, and maybe we should rip some shows, and yeah, get in contact, get a call, and see if we get on
100%. Fantastic.
or
Well, Dan,
nothing.
it's been a pleasure. Thank you ever so much for
All
coming
right,
on.
thanks for having
And
me. Sorry if I waffled. I wasn't quite sure what I was
no,
doing.
you were brilliant, mate. As I say, we'll look forward to catching you in the next one.
All
All
right, mate.
right.
Thanks
Take
for having
care,
me.
everyone. Thank
Good
you.
night.
It's gone.